In this video, I'm going to go over motion stabilization. If you look at this video, you can see that this camera was held handheld and it's kind of shaky, and so if you need to kind of fix this, there's a way to stabilize the image. Now I will emphasize that if you really wanted this to be steady, you probably should have shot it with a tripod to begin with, but there are occasions where somebody bangs a camera or things drift. Let's just go ahead and show you how we can fix this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get my tracker. And if you're not seeing the tracker in your windows on the right side, you go to Window, and then you can pull up Tracker, and then the tracker is going to show up over here. Now, before you can do anything, first thing you have to do is you have to select the layer that you want to stabilize. And you'll see that there's a bunch of different options here. There's 4 options, but in this situation we're going to use the motion, stabilize motion. So if I select that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find a point where there's a good piece of contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and select this little doohickey on the edge of this car here, and maybe I'll just expand it just a little bit. All right, so it's going to look at that and try to keep that stable from that point of view, but you have to analyze it now. And so let's put the playhead at the very beginning. Let's move this back to where it was. All right, and now I am going to go to the tracker window, and there's a thing here that says Analyze, and I'm going to just say Analyze Forward, and it's going through the whole video. All right, and you'll see that I've got all these key points over here. All right, so if I twirl this down, you can see each one of those key points, and nothing's going to happen unless you hit Apply. So then you hit Apply, and it's going to say, do you want to do X and Y or X only? I want X and Y. And I say OK. Now look what happens. You'll see that the image is stable now. Look how cool that is. And pretty easy to do if you have a nice good thing. The problem is that you can see that it's moving the frame around, and we're seeing that it is showing us other parts of the it's showing us those black parts where there is no video. So in order to fix that, you will have to change the position and the scale of this video. So if I move this over here, and then I'm going to scale it up a little bit so that it covers up that little piece here, and you can see that I got to adjust it a little bit on the right side here. So let's go ahead and position it over this way a little bit. Oh, it's drifting over here. All right, and so now we have a stabilized shot. And if you're still seeing a little bit of the edge, I might scale it up just a little bit more. And so that's how you do motion stabilization of a shot. And when you're looking at this particular video, notice in the tracker here, we were just tracking the position because we were just wanting the video to move X and Y to kind of keep it stable. But what if the video is actually rotating, or there's a scale that needs to be stabilized as well? And that can also be adjusted. So let's go ahead and look at this example here, and we're going to select our layer, and now we're going to select stabilize motion, but now we also want to have rotation selected here. And so when you clicked on that, notice that there are 2 boxes here, because if you look at this video, it's actually, the camera is dollying around, so it's actually rotating. So here what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these boxes, and we'll find a point here. We'll do 2 of them this time, and we'll do the other one here. Okay, and let's go ahead and make sure these things are connected. So that little point there has to go in the middle of the box. I don't know why it got disconnected there. All right, so once you have those 2 points, let's go ahead and analyze this forward. I always like to put it at the beginning of the thing to make sure that I don't have to remember to go backwards later. And let's go hit track or analyze. All right, and so it's watching and looking at each frame individually, and it's comparing frame by frame. And you have to kind of watch it to see if it's drifting. And it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. Now the camera goes back the other way now. All right, and then if you looks pretty good, you hit apply. All right, and we are again going to say X and Y. And so now let's go ahead and see how it's looking. The dolly's happening a little bit still, but it's much smoother. Take a look at what's going on the edge here. You can see that it's tilting the shot a little bit to kind of keep it level. Okay, so that line that was going back and forth is being analyzed to make sure that the camera doesn't, if the camera is tilting, then it's going to maintain that level that you had set up initially. Okay, let's take a look at some of the options available. So if we're looking at this video, and if you sometimes the tracking doesn't really work, you know, this is one of those things that you have tools available to help you improve your chances of getting a good track, but there are times when it doesn't really work well, and so maybe there are other ways of improving the track. And so if I go ahead and select this layer and I go back to motion stabilization, notice that there's something in here that says options. So if I click on options, you'll see that there's a drop-down window over here. And so there are other ways of looking at the material. Also, right now it's looking at luminance, meaning the brightness from one thing to another. Adapt feature on every frame, but I also have these other this drop-down menu has some other options available. And so what I want to do is I'm going to play with this adapt feature this time. And on top of that, I'm also going to change this to saturation instead of luminance. And I'm going to use something that has some color. All right, and so let's go ahead and take our track point and let's put it someplace. There's a little piece of red over here. You see that thing over there? So I'm going to go ahead and use that thing as my track point. And go hit the home button to start there. And let's go ahead and analyze forward. And now we'll go back to our comp window and let's see how it did. All right. And we get a little bit better tracker here.